Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Okay, thank you very much, Tanya. That was beautiful. You're a woman of many skills and talent. I just saw you translating for Hriday Maharaj the other day. That must have been fun. So I took my other mic I used to use and I put it in the studio. It's actually more suited for that. And I have another mic. Is it loud enough? Is it distorting? Does it need to be louder? This mic is actually meant for podcasting and radio shows. So it should sound even better. So my jokes will come in loud and clear, right? Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya. Now, I like to put a piece of paper on my desk in case I say anything worth writing down. That could be used in a t-shirt or video. So just give me 1 second. So we are discussing the song, Prabhupada's favorite song, Hari Hari Biphale. This is a song by Narottam Das Thakur. Narottam Das Thakur is a great Vaishnava musician and poet. And as we mentioned in the last class, that often we find that poets use their poetry for preaching. That's how they did it. They didn't, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also wrote extensively, I think over 100 books. But often for people in general, they wrote simple songs. They also wrote esoteric songs for more advanced devotees, but they also wrote very simple songs for people in general. So the essence of the song, Hari Hari Biphale Janama Ganainu, is I drank poison as if it were nectar. That's a very beautiful meditation, because basically that encapsulates the mode of passion perfectly, and it encapsulates life in general, that we are drinking things which are harmful for our spiritual life, but for our material life, they're pleasurable. And so it's a very interesting concept, because everyone is after pleasure. But that experience of pleasure, it's illusory because it makes us feel content. And so we could say, well, the goal of life is to be happy. The goal of life is to be content. And that's only partially true, because if I feel content and happy with material activities, what is the consequence? The consequence is that I want to stay here. Last night I was giving class, and we were talking about difficult situations that sometimes force us into detachment, and how we don't like them because the experience is uncomfortable or stressful, but the results are often exactly what we need. So any event which causes us to become more detached, whether the event is pleasurable or not, is welcome. Any event which is pleasurable or even not, but causes us to become more materially attached, ultimately is poisonous. And that's how we're meant to see it. So that feeling of enjoyment that you get in Krishna consciousness, that's wanted. But the feeling of enjoyment that you get from material sense gratification, it's actually your enemy because it's causing you to think. Have you ever thought, well, actually, material life is not that bad? No, it actually is, but we're not experiencing it because, you're young and you're strong and beautiful and everything's great. A nice sunrise, beautiful ocean, beautiful mountains. We don't deny that. But we've been taking birth and dying for millions of lifetimes. And so many human beings are going to take birth in animal species. That's not nice. It's not enjoyable. So although our experience on a day-to-day basis materially may even be nice because we live in a nice place, we have a nice family, nice friends, we're supposed to see through that and think, as a devotee, whatever enjoyment that I extract from life should only be in relation to Krishna, because other enjoyment, if it's not in relation to Krishna, it attaches me. Now, this is really interesting because Patanjali explained how attachment develops, and it's very simple. I think we all understand this, we just never thought about it, but sometimes you'll find that a couple breaks up and the relationship it's not worth continuing because they always end up fighting and hurting one another, one of those kinds of relationships, but they're attached. They've been together a long time. And so it's hard to give up, but it's even harder to stay together, right? So then they split up, and then you'll talk to one of them after a few weeks, and they'll say, I miss him. And I say, but he abuses you. And say, yeah, I know. But I miss him. So what is going on? That woman, or if it's a man who says I misses her and she abuses him, or just it doesn't work. But you suffered so much together. Yeah, I know, but I miss her. What is he focusing on? He's focusing on the good times. And he's obliterating all the negative. And that's why we do things that we've told ourselves we won't do, because we obliterate the negative and we just focus on the positive. And what's also interesting is even if there is no positive, we might focus on the hope that there will be. It looks like other people have positive experiences, so then I'll have a positive experience with this. So whenever you focus on this sounds really weird. People will think something's wrong with you guys. You're telling us don't focus on positive, focus on negative. Well, it's interesting. Don't look at it as a lifestyle discussion. Look at it as a philosophical discussion, or a discussion, a psychological discussion. As you know, I always speak against negativity, and I always speak about positivity. But what are you positive about and what are you negative about? Then, if you're negative about eating sugar, that's good. If you're positive about eating sugar, not good. Well, you're eating too much, you're eating refined sugar, or eating fried foods, white flour, and I can go down the list of all the things you shouldn't eat, which is probably 90% to 99% of what you eat every day. So, but if you know something's bad and I say this is bad, you could say, you're so negative. Or you could say, thank you. That was a positive statement, because I'm positively going to eat some alternative sweet that is not going to be unhealthy. So, but I think we can understand the point being that if in our minds we attach happiness and pleasure to memories, or not even to memories, to anything we see, maybe even we haven't experienced it, but we attach this idea that looks pleasurable, enjoyable, we become attached. Dayato visham punsam. So now let's Let's create a good commercial. Let's create a commercial. If you use this skin cream, all your wrinkles will go away. And we're going to show all these amazingly photoshopped, beautiful girls with no wrinkles, beauty that they don't even have, and with big smiles, and of course, perfect teeth, photoshopped to perfection. And we're going to look at that and we're going to think, wow, if I look like that, I would be really happy. And the more we look at it and the more we think I will be happy, the more we want it. And then we get out our credit card and buy the product. That's how it works. So now let's look at the other side. This is interesting. So we understand attachments to enjoyment, or the thought of enjoyment, or the possibility of enjoyment, or remembrances of past enjoyment create attachment. How do you become detached? So now let's look at the jnanis, or even the Buddhist. What do they do to become detached? They look at the dark side of everything. We have been told, I haven't researched this to confirm this, but I have been told that some, maybe Buddhists or some yogis, actually have a skull, and they keep a skull on their altar or on their desk just to remind them that from dust thou art and dust thou will become. That's who you are and that's where you're going. Just, a little knowledge of, in case you get bewildered, this is actually the reality. So detachment comes from knowledge. This is bad. So this is bad, that's bad, that's bad. And so you read in Prabhupada's book sometimes and you think, well, it's so negative, you're saying everything is bad. This is how one becomes detached before one is Krishna conscious. Because if you're Krishna conscious, the pleasure of Krishna consciousness will automatically cause detachment. You just won't be interested. You don't need anyone to say, that's ugly, that's bad, that's going to hurt you. You don't even care about it. You are blissed out in devotional service. So these things don't bother you. But in order to get to that stage where you can pull away from your attachments, then knowledge is used. After all you beautiful young ladies, you're just a bag of stool, mucus, and bile. That's what you tell the men in the brahmachari class, right? Is that a solution for detachment? No, but it gets you through the next day until you hear the class again, right? So it's something like that, of course, you don't want to marry a guy who looks at you as a bag of stool, mucus, bile, and blood and pus, because that could create a very weird relationship. But, and you ladies have seen that in the men who meditate on these things. But you understand the principle. Probably a better principle is to look at the strife and stress that relationships cause. If you want to be single, it can help you. Your mind says, I want to be single. Your heart says, I want to get married. You think, no, but I'd be better if I were single. You start to look at the negative. This can be a problem. We've seen it in ISKCON, right? And then you hear the classes about all the things that are wrong with women, or all the things are wrong with the men who marry the women, or all the things that are wrong about the relationship between men and women, which is pretty dysfunctional way of looking at the world. But you understand behind it, there's this idea, if I see things as poisonous, I become detached. That's the idea. So it's kind of artificial, and it can be very unhealthy, as we've seen, but it has a use in some way. Well, it's in what way? You say, well, better be adverse than attached. Aversion is a problem, because usually aversion is the other side of attachment, right? But we could say of the two, if you have to go to one or the other, then aversion at least gets you through the day, hopefully, where you can, get detached, So this is even used in psychology, where I saw this. There's a beautiful example of this, which is not dysfunctional and crazy, because it dealt with pizza, not people. And they asked a man to come on stage, and they asked him, what is your favorite food? And what they were going to do is they were going to show how he could become detached from his favorite food. So he said pizza, and with these toppings, and they actually brought the pizza. And so there it was, and he's looking at it and he's salivating. And this is, you know, that feeling when your favorite food is on the table and you're hungry. So then the facilitator said, tell me something bad about the pizza, or tell me something about why this pizza is bad. And so the man said, well, cholesterol, puts on weight, white flour raises my blood pressure. He went hard to digest. He went down a whole list of what was bad about the pizza. And so the facilitator was very expert. He could tell there was a shift. And when he saw that shift, he said, do you want to eat the pizza now? And he said, no, it's making me sick to look at it. Interesting, isn't it? So that's gyan, but it works psychologically also. Like if you want to give up sugar, if you want to, I don't know if you want to. If you want to, you have to read books about all, you know, how sugar extracts all the calcium out of your bones. And when you're 50, you'll be all a hunchback and on crutches, you know. You have to read things like that. Otherwise, who can give up sugar? So, sugar, are you kidding? I'd rather die. And I think you all have experience of this. When you needed to make a change, you needed to hear sufficiently all the negative ramifications of living the way you're living to the point where you actually were afraid to continue living that way or eating that way or thinking that way, and then you change. So that's the idea of gyan. So now, go back to that original statement, I drank poison as if it were nectar, that we understand basically that's material life. Now, we've talked about this also. If you're not a devotee and you're in ignorance, then drinking nectar, drinking poison as nectar, it's not a problem because you don't know it's poison. So you just taste the nectar. You'll find out later it's poison. But when you're a devotee, you can't really enjoy it because while you're drinking the nectar, you know it's poison. So it's like double trouble, you know, like you're enjoying it in the back of your mind. You're thinking, I shouldn't be doing this. So how can you enjoy it? Essentially, it's pleasurable, but your mind is distraught. So that's kind of the price you pay when you sign up, sign on the dotted line to become a Hare Krishna. It's kind of like, well, you know, if you become a Hare Krishna, it kind of rains on your parade for material life, because now when you do it, you know it's wrong. You know it's poison, and you know you're just looking at your watch waiting for the poison to hit. And it's already poison in your mind, right? I mean, you know how many letters I get of devotees who feel bad about what they did? Yeah, that never would have, if they weren't devotees, never would have felt bad. It's like they probably would have been quite happy that they did all these sinful things. Anyway, so Narottam Das Thakur, as Prabhupada said, as you may be wondering, well, was he actually feeling like this, or was this just for us? And the answer is yes, yes. That was the answers that Prabhupada gave. Yes, they feel that way, and yes, it's for us. And you think, well, how could a pure devotee feel that way? I can tell you how they can feel that way, because they're pure devotees. That's how, because they're humble. So, you know, do you realize, this is really important, in case you're spacing out, on the count of 3, stop spacing out. Do you realize that 1 ounce, 1 drop of sense gratification in the life of a pure devotee, for the pure devotee, that's like a mountain of sense gratification. Like, how could I do that? I turned away from Krishna. Like we don't always understand that sense gratification means turning away from Krishna. We just think, oh, sense gratification, I'm just weak, or, you know, I need a little, you know, I got to chill out after a hard day at the office, you know. But the pure devotee doesn't see it that way. He says, sense gratification means I turn my back on Krishna, and I am no longer serving Krishna, but I'm trying to enjoy, like, for myself, not for him. He's like, all right, Krishna, just sit over there for a few minutes while I enjoy this movie, and then we'll talk later. You know? Pure devotee won't do that for 1 second. That would drive him crazy. And that's why Bhagavatam says, there's a verse in Bhagavatam says that a devotee thinks, if I forget Krishna for a nanosecond, that nanosecond was the biggest loss of a nanosecond ever. There's a verse like that. You know that verse? Have you read it? Second canto. I think it's second canto. It could be first. Isn't that interesting? That it gets so bad or / so good that Mahaprabhu takes it to the extreme, and Mahaprabhu says, I'm living and my life is sinful. Why? Because I'm living and I don't love Krishna. So why should I live? It's illegal. It should be illegal to live if you don't love Krishna. Okay, everyone, raise your hand. If you don't love Krishna, then we're taking you to the prison and electric chair tomorrow. Yeah. It should be illegal to live if you don't. That's how the pure devotee thinks. Like, why would I live if I don't love Krishna? So this is important for us. We don't always think sense gratification is aversion to Krishna. Well, is sense gratification personal sense gratification? Well, I'm just thinking about my ego, my pleasure, my gratification, my comfort, my happiness. Is that different from love of God? Obviously, yes. Is it diametrically opposed to love of God? It is. And so when you understand it's diametrically opposed, then you will understand the statement that Prabhupada made when he was asked, why is it so hard to be Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada said, because you hate Krishna. Now, it's hard to convince people they hate Krishna. Nobody feels like they hate Krishna. Well, the atheists, well, they can't hate him because they don't believe him, but they hate people who believe him. So it's kind of the same thing. Have you ever thought when you're enjoying your sense gratification, this is an action of hatred towards Krishna? We don't think that way because we don't hate Krishna. We're devotees. At least we don't think we hate Krishna. So I'm going to take this to the next level. Are you ready? Put on your seatbelts, everyone. This is not controversial, although some people might think it is, but just if I say the word controversial, it's always good to wake you up. This is controversial. Oh, and everybody's looking at the camera. I got your attention now. I got Dr. Mai's attention. She's working now. That was the only way to get her attention. You probably know that Krishna likes to dance with other people's wives. And Krishna takes it to such a degree that even those who are not married, who want to marry him, he puts them through some situations where they have to marry him, like stealing their clothes, so they have to come naked. Because according to Shastra, if you see a woman naked, then you have to marry her. That's the rule. That's just how it works, right? Why is Krishna doing this? It's like, this is like one of the most bewildering things, And so the gopis come and they have long hair. And so they come, they have no clothes and they pull their hair down and they cover their whole body with their hair. And Krishna says, no, chaste women can't, you have to have your hair back. Why is he doing this? You're reading this and going, this is like, don't tell this story in the Catholic Church. They might chop your head off at the guillotine in about 3 seconds, right? What is Krishna showing? Krishna is showing that I can do this because I'm God, and you cannot do this. You can do this when you get married and raise children, and not exactly like this. So what do we understand from this? What did Prabhupada say? Sexual enjoyment is the highest pleasure in the material world, the lowest pleasure in the spiritual world. But the Ras Lila and Krishna's action with the gopis, it's the highest. So it must have nothing to do with mundane sex pleasure. And Krishna's showing by that, this has nothing to do with what you think it is. But this is showing who is the actual one who can do this and enjoy it and get away with it, and everybody's happy. Not you, me. Now, where are we going with this? When you do that, guess what you're doing? You're imitating me, right? Why? Because, as we said, sense enjoyment is imitation of Krishna. correct? The higher the sense gratification, the more there's imitation. What is the highest pleasure in the material world? As Prabhupada said, Bhagavatam says, it's very clear. The center point is sexual attraction, gross, subtle, everything about it. So, sex outside of religious principles is the highest imitation of Krishna because it's the highest enjoyment. The more enjoyment, the more you're imitating. So a lot of devotees say, well, I don't really see what's wrong with sex. Well, I hope you see it now because, nothing wrong with sex for procreation. But if it's not for procreation and just enjoyment, now you are imitating Krishna. The higher their enjoyment, the greater. And this is like a big imitation. This is not some little imitation where you forget to offer something or you watch a stupid video for 10 minutes. This is like big time imitation. And then ultimately, if we can see that this imitation is a manifestation of my hatred of Krishna, well, actually, Krishna, it'd really be cool if I could do this and enjoy it. And, the fact that I can't do it and enjoy it and you can, I don't know if I'm okay with that because I really want to enjoy it. And until you become okay with it, you have a problem and you're going to try to imitate Krishna. Does that make sense? So it's important to understand. As I've seen so many devotees, they have a really difficult time understanding why to be sexually controlled because it's natural. And I understand it's natural and I understand it's difficult. I also have a body and I was also younger. And that was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done as a devotee is maintain celibacy, at least try my best to maintain it. So I totally understand it, but we need to see it philosophically. Why should we maintain it? How can we maintain it? Because it's imitation. It's putting ourselves Krishna's position. And Hridayana Maharaj tells this really funny story. It's a made-up story, but it's perfect. I love this story. So, and I've told this story. I don't know if you've all heard this. And I don't mind telling things again because usually when I tell it again, we think, oh yeah, I remember that story. But if I didn't tell it again, you wouldn't remember it, right? Isn't it? This guy said, I can tell you how to remember 10 things. And he shows 10 things. And he said, what are those you remember? And you remember about 2 or 3. He says, no, you remember all of them. And then he shows you a list of 50 things. And he says, so pick on that list of 10 things I showed you. You actually remember it. You remember that you heard it, but you didn't remember it until the second time. So high school boy, high school girl, they go home to the girl's house and the father is in the living room reading his newspaper, like all bona fide fathers do. Well, in those days, people read newspapers. Could you imagine? That's big newspaper. Can't even see them, They can read it on a little phone with a big newspaper, killing the trees. Yeah. Some people still do it, not much. The older people probably, right? I don't think, do younger people read newspapers? It's not so much, right? More older people? Yeah. So the girl says, we're going to go up to my room. And the father says, no, you're not. Whatever you want to do, you just stay down here. And the boy's like, damn, So Hridayana Maharaj says, that's like Krishna is like the father, So when you want to enjoy sense gratification, you want to go up to the bedroom and you want to leave Krishna in the living room, isn't it? Okay, let's cover the altar, put the curtains over the altar. It's time to watch a movie. And Krishna, you're not invited because if you're sitting here, I'm going to feel really guilty and I can't really do what I want to do. So, yeah. So sense gratification means getting rid of Krishna, basically. And we need to face the fact. And the higher the sense gratification, the more we're trying to get rid of him and the more we're trying to imitate him. And when you understand that, then you take it to its logical conclusion. The highest pleasure is sex. The highest imitation of Krishna is sex. And the highest, we could say hatred. I mean, that's a difficult word. We have to kind of understand it contextually, but we understand envy comes from envy of God, is because Prabhupada said you can't, if you envy anyone, have you ever envied anybody? Of course. Prabhupada said you cannot envy someone if you don't envy Krishna. So it's like, who wants to admit that? I got you. You said you envied someone. Now I got you. Oh, that's envy of Krishna. But you wouldn't want to admit it, but I got you in a corner. So now you can't get out, right? So you can't envy anyone if you don't envy Krishna. You can't hate anybody if you don't hate Krishna. So you have to put all this together. So therefore, Narottam Das Thakur is saying, I'm drinking poison. It's envy of Krishna. I'm imitating Krishna. It's hatred of Krishna. And I'm drinking it like, this is nectar. Give me some more. That is the height of insanity. It doesn't get any worse than that, right? To think that sense gratification is real enjoyment. And Maya's job, which she's paid such good salaries for, and she works 24/7 for, is to get you to think that it's nectar when it's poison. Hare Krishna. Hey, that was kind of heavy, wasn't it? So now the next question is, are you man enough to take it? Or will my class on Wednesday have no attendees? That's the next question. Prabhupada got really heavy with the devotee, with a woman, because she offered him cold rice, and he saw it wasn't about him. He has to have hot rice as much as she was not understanding how to serve her guru. So he got very heavy. And then in the evening, he apologized. He said, well, I had to do that just to make the point. So, sometimes Prabhupada's very heavy, but he's not a heavy person per se, but he has to make a point heavy, just so it shakes us up because we're dull, right? Have you noticed your brain sometimes doesn't understand until somebody shakes you up? Goes, hello, anybody there? Knock, knock, knock. Hello, that's Maya. Oh, thank you for telling me. I didn't notice. You didn't notice? What was there not to notice? I don't know. I just didn't notice. You ever had that experience? And you need somebody to come and shake you up, right? Yeah. Hare Krishna. So that was the introduction. And what time is it now? Let me check. I don't have my watch. Oh, that was the introduction. So we could read a few more things that Prabhupada said. We'll go to the Veda base. And I think what we're going to read today will be similar for the most part to what we read last Wednesday. But as I said, hearing again, I think is not bad. Not only do I think it's not bad, I think it's good, because when you hear it the second time, it kind of gets super glued inside. The first time, it's kind of like a cheap adhesive. You could lose it. Isn't it? Sometimes you forget. Yeah. So I'm going to go to the Veda base, and then I will share what I find. Hold on. Does this mic sound better than the last one, or you can't tell the difference?
It sounds much better.
This is the radio broadcast mic. This is a very expensive mic. This is the mic I use to do the japa affirmations. It's expensive, but I didn't have to pay a lot. I paid half price. Welcome to Radio Krishna 108 on your dial, where we take you back to Godhead in 3 easy steps. Chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam, and philosophize. Okay. That's what Prabhupada said. Chanting, dancing, and philosophizing. Okay. So I have to start my search again. And then I have to remember where we left off. Oh, no, this is not right. Wait a minute. There are only 16 references. Okay, so I'm going to go down a little bit. This is a lecture, so let's read this. I will share my screen so you can read along. And those of you who speak Spanish, you'll have a better chance of understanding. And I'm supposed to speak slow so Talia can follow my English. I was trying to listen to Spanish people speak and understand till I realized that 80% of the words they're using, I don't know. So that did create a problem. Anyway, you can read along, Talia, so I can go fast, right? The human form of life is gotten. We have received after many, many births. These people, they do not know. It is very rare. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur sings, Manusha Janamapai Radha Krishna Nabhajya Janiya Shunya Visha Koinu. That means human life is rare. And Radha Krishna Nabhajya, I didn't worship Radha and Krishna. And I drank poison as if it were nectar. Hari Hari Biphale Janama Gainu. He is lamenting, my dear Krishna, I am so unfortunate. I got this human form of life. It was meant for developing Krishna consciousness. But I have wasted my time otherwise. So how is it so? Janiya Shunya Visha Kainu. Knowingly, I have taken poison. Knowingly. Labdva sudurlabham idam bahu sambhavanti manusham artha dhamma. That verse from 11th canto, it means, labdha means to achieve, and sudurlabham means especially rare. And idam bahu sambhavanti, manusham, artadam means the human life is given after many births. You didn't know I know Sanskrit, did you? I don't, but I know some. So I know all those words. If you just pay attention, you'll learn Sanskrit because these same words keep coming up all the time. If you just pay attention, you can learn something. And Prabhupada here, he's talking about, oh, well, here's the translation. Better yet than my paraphrasing. After many, many births and deaths, one achieves the rare human form of life, which, although temporary, affords one the opportunity to attain the highest perfection. Thus, a sober human being should quickly endeavor for the ultimate perfection of life, as long as his body, which is always subject to death, has not fallen down and died. After all, sense gratification is available even in the most abominable species of life, whereas Krishna consciousness is possible only for a human being. So, let's read on a little bit. It's nice to hear what Prabhupada's saying. Manusham, these people, they do not know, because they are asuras. They do not know what to do in this human form of life and what not to do. They are killing animals without any hesitation. They do not know, these rascals, and still they are spiritual leaders. How horrible this condition is in this Kali Yuga. Just imagine, without any restriction, without any hindrance, they are committing sinful life. They do not know. Next life. All this boastfulness, pride, will be finished. He will have to accept another body, which will be offered by the material nature. You cannot say that I will not accept this body. I want this body. No. Nature is not under your dictation. You have to abide by the dictation of nature. Prakrite kriyamanani. This verse of Bhagavad Gita is very important. So, I told you a while, I'm compiling all the verses from Bhakti Shastri. And then I didn't finish because I thought I compiled them all, and then I found there was a few that I missed. And then I went to Ecuador. And then I came back full of mucus, so I couldn't do it because my voice would sound so much different from the original. So it's coming close. And so you're all going to get it. And I want you all to learn all those verses. Otherwise, I'll never talk to you. That's you get it, but that's what you have to do. You have to learn all those verses. And in the future, if you want to take initiation, you have to do what do they call that? An oral exam. You have to recite those verses. I mean, if you don't know the Bhakti Shastri verses, all of them, then it's like, how can you call yourself a devotee? It's kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? A sham? That's not the word, but something like that. You call yourself a devotee, you don't even know the main verses of Bhagavad Gita. Right, so here's one of the verses. These verses that are coming up here, they're there. Every devotee who's worth his weight in bhakti should know these verses. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. If you don't know these verses, after class you can just lay in your bed and cry and feel bad, because you should. You should know these if you've been around a while. Ahankara, by false ego. The asuras, they think, I am independent. I can do whatever I like. No, you cannot do so. If you do so, then you will be punished. Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya dharatyaya mamevaye prapadyante mayam etan tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. For every little action, you are responsible. It is being noted by the material nature. And you will have to, Prabhupada's going to say, suffer. You will be forced to accept a kind of body for suffering. There's so many types of body. Therefore, Arjuna, being Devata, he is considering, although they are atatayana, at the same time, they are family men. Whether it is good to kill family, he is asking Krishna. Krishna is there. He is considering. He's consulting with Krishna. Do you think that killing this kind of aggressor, I will be benefited or not? Therefore, in the last line, he said, Sajanam hi katam hatva sukina shama madhava. My dear Krishna, do you think that by killing, he's not asking a question, it's a rhetorical question. My dear Krishna, you think that by killing my relatives, I'll be happy? It wasn't a submissive question. It was a challenging question. You are Madhava. You're always happy because you are the husband of the goddess of fortune. But do you think I shall be happy in this way? This is consultation. And Arjuna, he called Krishna Madhusudana, slayer of the Madhu demon. And so the implication was, you kill demons and you're asking me to kill my family. Like, what's going on here? It's not fair. It's not right. You've asked me to kill demons. Okay, but not family member. Okay, so we're getting off on a little tangent here. But in the purport, on el significado, Prabhupada explicar, que muy afortunado, muy afortunado. Can you all understand? What?
Afortunado.
Unfortunate.
Desafortunado.
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 Soy desafortunado. Muy desafortunado. I'm very unfortunate. Desafortunado. I got to get the pronunciation better, but I'm working. I got to get the words first, then the desafortunado. Krishna explicar. Krishna dice. Mahaprabhu in Shishastakam, on Shishastakam, lo mismo, the same. I am unfortunate. ¿Por qué? Porque no me gusta. I don't like cantar Hare Krishna. Si ustedes no le gusta cantar Hare Krishna, mucho problema. If you don't like to chant Hare Krishna, that's like a problem. See? That is a problem. That's a big problem, right? That's the worst problem. There is no problem greater than that. So why would you tell yourself, I'm so unfortunate? Because you're telling yourself that because you're telling yourself, make yourself fortunate. Chant the holy name without offense so you can get a taste. So you will make yourself fortunate. That's your job, to make yourself fortunate. It's your duty, your dharma. Make yourself afortunado. Not desafortunado. No desafortunado, afortunado. Make yourself fortunate. You canta el santo nombres, sin, offenses, without offense, sin, offense,
Sin.
offense, sin, offense, sin, these offenses. Después, será, you become, será afortunado. Chant without offense, you become fortunate. Cantar con offense, después, desafortunado. And your fortune or misfortune is created by yourself. So that's why devotee says, I'm so unfortunate, because we're trying to convince ourselves, if I'm unfortunate, it's my own doing, so I can make myself fortunate by chanting without offense. Right? And how many times has Prabhupada said, look at, you're a human being. This is like, this is like winning the lottery. It's about as rare as winning the lottery. And like, what are you doing? You're living like an animal. It's like you just went to Las Vegas and won $10 million, right? And you have a 1972 Toyota, with bald tires and no muffler. And you just won millions of dollars, and you drive off in your Toyota. You don't get a new car. Like, you're crazy. What's wrong with you? So you have this wealth, you have the holy name, and you're so unfortunate you don't use it. That's the idea. So make yourself fortunate. We've talked so much about self-love. And so self-love means make yourself fortunate. You have the fortune, use it properly. And sometimes when I chant japa, cantar japa, not yapa, although you might say yapa, but it's actually japa in Sanskrit. Me cantar yapa. Yai Prabhupada. No. So anyway, we're having fun here. So when you chant cuando ustedes cantar japa, ustedes piensa, you can think, you can think, okay, ahora, now, I make myself fortunate by chanting without offense. Right? I'm going to give myself the greatest gift I could possibly give myself. Un regalo grande para mí. Cantar sin offense. Offense? Same word, offense. That's the greatest gift.
Es ofensa.
Ofensa. No ofensa. Cantar con sin ofensa. Este es regalo mejor. It's the best gift. Give, toma. Give yourself. Toma.
Date el regalo.
Date el regalo means a gift for yourself. Yeah, that's the greatest gift. Okay. Enough of my Spanish. Slowly. One day you'll hear me give the whole class in Spanish. No one will understand it except me, but anyway, you have to try. Can't be afraid to fail, right? All right. Let's see if there's any questions. Because now it's our general time for questions. um, uh, or comments. Next, Russian. I don't think in this life, because I can't pronounce all the words properly. I mean, I probably could, but right now I have a hard time doing it. And I think it's hard to learn multiple languages at the same time for me because I confuse them. Oh yeah, so there's 6 questions left over from the previous classes and 2 questions related to your quotes on Facebook. Okay, so we're going to go over them. We promised, I forgot. You should have reminded me, Tanya. You can interrupt. If we've made an agreement, then it's okay to interrupt. Okay. This is from Krishna. Are these the questions here? Or no, where are they? Where you're going to put them in now? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I hope this class shook you up, Sydney. It's my job is shake you up. Well, we'll answer Krishna Kanta's question while you're waiting. If young people read the newspaper, I'm guessing young people don't read much. They're more into videos. And yeah, like people are reading less and watching more videos. It's good for lazy people. Reading's too much trouble. It takes energy. It's a question from Janaki from one of the spiritual bypassing classes. So this is off topic, but we promise to answer these questions. If you know that sometimes harshness helps you advance, is it okay to seek out small doses of that intensity? Or better to just slowly advance? Whatever works for you. May not work for everybody. You have to be the judge to answer that question. I think for some devotees, in some situations, they need to be shaken up. That's the only thing that will help. And for other devotees, just little drops is all they need, and they can digest it, and they can use it. So that you'll have to see what works. The fundamental principle is whatever works, works. Another one of my profound statements. That's my answer to you, Janaki. Whatever works, works. And whatever doesn't work, doesn't work. Now, it may not work because you're not in a good state of consciousness. That could also be. Now that you have to consider. Question from Vishamrita Das related to the following quote. If someone uses Prabhupada's words to abuse or harm others, then then they haven't understood Prabhupada's words correctly. Prabhupada did not teach us to act in Tamagun. Yeah. Well, that's true because now sometimes Prabhupada's words there's nothing you can do. They will hurt somebody who's resistant. But the point is, if the words are misrepresented or not explained properly or not delivered properly according to time and place, then it's our fault. And if you do everything perfectly and somebody still is upset, sometimes there's nothing you can do because you have to give the medicine. You just want to give it in a way that they can take it. And if you completely misunderstand Prabhupada's instructions and you have some agenda, personal agenda, and you want to use Prabhupada's instructions for your personal agenda, yeah, that's criminal. He replied the following to his previous statement. It's possible to use Prabhupada's words to fulfill your own agenda, usually to control or shame someone. For example, Prabhupada says, the wife should be submissive, and a man may use that statement to become a dictator husband without sympathizing with his wife's needs. Yeah, that's not, I don't say it's quite common. I'll just say it's not uncommon. And the reason I was late this morning was because I was answering a letter where this happened. And the woman was asking what she should do. Oh, I understand. Thanks for the example. Following that example, the husband would be the guru of the wife. Yeah. So does the guru abuse the disciple? No. My doubt came from the fact that Prabhupada also said that for there to be a cheater, there must be two cheaters. The one who cheats and the one who's cheated. For example, before a sincere disciple, a bad guru becomes a perfect instrument of Krishna for the advancement of the disciple. Because ultimately the real guru is Krishna behind that instrument, and the disciple advances. Would the same thing happen with the bad husband? No, because he's bad. I always thought that in that sense, the quality of the disciple is more important than that. Yeah, it could be, because a good wife could tolerate anything and anybody, but sometimes the wife becomes destroyed in trying to tolerate. I would like to know your point. Yeah, so, the principle is always do your best, and if doing your best is destroying you, it's not a good idea. Something has to change, either the husband or your attitude or the relationship. You may have to protect yourself from the relationship. So I can't say because this is a general question. So it could be any of those. It could be just the husband has the wrong attitude, the wife has the wrong attitude, and they change their attitude, everything's good. Could be the wife has the wrong attitude and she's making her husband go crazy and he turns into a dictator, and she's actually turning him into the dictator and she doesn't realize it. Or it may be his nature to be like, do it my way or get out of here. But if you're in an abusive relationship, then you will suffer psychologically to the point where it may start having negative ramifications on your Krishna consciousness, on your children, on the sanity of your life, and so forth. And so at that point, then it becomes unfavorable for your bhakti, and you have to do something perhaps more drastic, like separate when all else fails. You don't want to become a martyr. And now another woman in that same situation may be able to deal with it. Just ignore the husband, not worry about it. But you can't compare yourself to another person. I jump off a building and I break my ankle. You jump off a building and you're fine. And I think I can't say, well, I'm so bad I broke my ankle. You didn't break yours. That's stupid. Let's go to the doctor. Fix it. So if you have the baseline is we have to do what's helpful for Krishna consciousness, and we try to do the best we can. And after we've tried everything, we may realize that the existential situation is the problem more, because I've made all the internal adjustments. It's, poison is poison, and I can't drink poison and live through it. So you have to decide that. Am I drinking poison, or am I just, not eating healthy? But, if I were to give any other advice, I'd have to know the situation. Question from Gabriella. From Bhagavatam class 1624. I want a bigger house and more money to have more spacious center. And well-furnished for Vaishnavas and do more healing and Krishna consciousness activities. Would it be okay to wish for these kinds of material things? And to be ambitious for more, what would be healthy? It's okay as long as you're detached, and say, Krishna, if you think I can use this is what I'd like to do, and use it for you. There's a reluctance on the part of a devotee to ask Krishna for anything. So if it's purely for service, and we know this would help the service, now Krishna may think, nah, you don't need all that for your service. Or Krishna may think, first show me that you're using what you have now, then we'll talk about more. Here's $100, make 200 out of it, then we'll talk. Then I'll give you 200 more. So that can be there also. But to have a vision is inspiring. And you have that vision, and behind that vision is Krishna. This vision is for your pleasure. I think if I have these things, I can attract people. Or I can I want to attract academics. I want to attract professionals. If I have a place like this, it will be easier to attract them than if I just have a little storefront and we all sit on the floor. Yeah, of course. That makes sense. You can pray for that. while you're praying for it, also do everything you can to make it happen. So don't just wait around for it to happen. Get out there and don't give up when there's problems, because there will be. It's the material world. Even Prabhupada had so many obstacles. It's just the nature of what we're dealing with. But your next question will be, well, if there's obstacles, how do I know it doesn't mean Krishna doesn't want it? That's another, well, situation by situation that could be answered. But in general, if 99% of the things you're trying to accomplish are going south, probably Krishna doesn't want you to do it. I think it's obvious. But sometimes it's just the test. That's all. You said that we as a friends supposed to be accepting and supporting. What about the situation when our friend is misbehaving and is expecting us to accept him and support him? That's another, support him stopping from making efforts to correct himself because he feels accepted by us as he is. We have to figure out how to do both. Help them improve without judging them. So it's like, I'd like to help you. I think you can do better than this. But you're not judging them for what they're doing. You're not condemning them for what they're doing. You're just offering to help. Let me help you. I know you can do better. You know you can do better. You're not saying you're an idiot. You're a horrible person. You're just saying, I know you can do better. I'd like to help you. Something like that. That's a general mood. Question from the True Meaning of Friendship class. The true meaning of friendship. Is it advisable for us to try to maintain a good relationship in the sport devotees? Yeah. Have been or in some way offensive to devotees. And to support devotees who have been in some way offensive to devotees in ISKCON, if we see that underneath those offensive devotees have deep desire, yeah, you should help them. Because it's not, there's two kinds of offenses. One is an offense, what do we say? Textbook offense. It is an offense. What they said is offensive. But then you understand that it's an expression of frustration. It came out as an offense. It's really, they're not offensive people. They're frustrated. And they're hurt, so they're offending the people that hurt them. And so once you understand that, you're not going to deal with them as if they're offensive. And you'll be able to communicate on that level. Say, yeah, I know. I could see you're really hurt by the way that devotee dealt with you. And it's hard for you to have faith or respect. So you're agreeing because it's not difficult to understand why they're acting that way. Otherwise, you say, Prabhu, you're offensive and I don't want to see your face. That's not going to help. At least with the kind of person. May help with somebody else because you don't want to be an accomplice in the offenses. But in this situation, it's different. Now, having said that, it is a fact that not all of you can do that and come out alive. Some of you will get burnt by it because you'll hear the offenses and you won't know how to process it. You won't see it as just the frustration that they're venting and trying to process. So if that's the case, you can't deal with it because you'll be harmed. So you have to be able to deal with it. Correcto? Yeah. Don't go even if you could help them. Jai, if you're not able. Jayada Nishingha. How to control the mind and emotions class. Oh, there's a lot of questions we didn't answer. Is this from Facebook, or is this from the class itself? Or both?
This is from Facebook, I think.
After the class or during the class?
I think it was after.
Okay. So you have to tell all these devotees their answers are here, or you can transcribe it. Is avoiding the association of such proud devotees healthy for our spiritual life? Or what would be the best way to associate with such proud devotees when you live in the temple and have to see them every day? Well, I think that, the worst thing that happens to us when we see a devotee exhibit qualities or behaviors or speak words that we feel are offensive or inappropriate or just plain bad, is that we get really upset. And we start committing offenses in our mind. That devotee is so proud, he's so offensive. Who does he think he is? He's not that great, and then your mind is now making offenses. So that's the danger. And, my joke is when someone asks me, what do you think of Trump? My answer is, why would I think of Trump? What do you think of this proud devotee? Why do I need to think of him? That's the idea. So somebody may be acting in a way which is inappropriate or improper. And if you dwell on that, it's likely you'll become upset. So that's one answer is don't worry about it. Another answer is if you don't like that behavior, and Prabhupada said, then behave the way you would like that devotee to behave. It's an interesting answer, isn't it? So you see a devotee and you don't like the way they're behaving. Okay, fine. So behave the way you would wish they would behave. And Prabhupada said, that's the example you set. Interesting, right? Isn't it? You can all find some devotee whose behavior is not so pleasing to you. Okay, so, and then you think, I wish the devotee would act this way or that way. All right, so why don't you act this way or that way? And then that devotee will see you act this way and that way, and maybe that devotee will become inspired. That was what Prabhupada said. It's very simple, but the more I think about it, the more I see how deep it is and all encompassing it is. It's the perfect answer. Now, if that devotee is younger than you or close to you, has a lot of faith in you, and you could tell them, say, I think your behavior is inappropriate. I think it's going to harm you. In your own way, you can say these things. If you feel that they would be open to that. Question from Maxime Kordetsev. Related to the following quote, Krishna is only a thought away. Why? Why not? Thinking of Krishna is non-different than Krishna. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are one thought away from Krishna. On the count of three, think of Krishna. 1, 2, 3. Blue lotus feet, threefold bending form, flute playing the fifth note, beautiful flower garlands, lotus eyes, some aspect. Wow. There you are. Now we're with Krishna. He was only one thought away. That was like 7 thoughts away. No, he was one thought away 7 times over. One more question. You didn't see it above. From Aldo. Yeah, this Chad, it's easy to miss questions. How to chant japa class. How can we be more humble in chanting the holy name? What are the things we can do on a daily basis to be more humble? How can we be more and more humble? Oh. Good question. When I find out the answer, I'll call you up and let you know. Well, one answer is just develop prema. If you sometimes, I just bought a phone cover for my new phone, right? And in the phone cover, there came a wipe to wipe the screen, right? At no additional cost. So, Aldo, just get prema, and for no additional cost, you get humility. And Aldo says, well, it's going to take a little bit of time. Okay, in the meantime, act humbly. Act humbly, even when you feel proud. That's all you can do. And what is acting humbly? What does Mahaprabhu say? Respect others. Don't want respect for yourself. That's big. That's a big, 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 big challenge. To not want any respect for yourself and give all respect to others. Meditate on that. And you'll realize that's difficult. That's really difficult, you know. You distribute 100 Bhagavad Gitas, the next devotee in the temple distributes 12. When they're giving out the awards, they forget to call you and they give it number 1 to the devotee who distributed the 12 Gitas. And you stayed out 24 hours to do those 100. How do you feel? Like, what's going on here? I'm number 1. Why didn't they recognize me? Yeah. So if we think that way, then we're going nowhere. But, oh, I'm glad they missed me. I don't want that respect. I'm glad they gave it to this devotee. This devotee's so nice. Amanina, amanadena. All respect to others, none for me. Yeah. Meditate on that, how hard that is. So if you master that, you've made it. You're ready to go back to Godhead. Until then, good luck. Maya's after you. Maya's on your trail. If you're proud, Maya's on your trail. And being proud is a sign that we're in Maya. And being proud, wanting to be glorified, is a sign that we're a bona fide resident of the material world. We're a normal, materialistically contaminated person. And we're trying to be abnormally spiritually purified. So, you know, when I became a devotee, it wasn't so I could become honored. It was so I could become a sadhu. And I think that's hopefully why you joined as well. If you forget that, you're in trouble. The purpose of the Hare Krishna movement is not to inflate your ego. That is not the purpose. Do not use the Hare Krishna movement to inflate your ego. Do not use the Hare Krishna movement to become a dictator, to get power, to manipulate. If you want to do those things, just go out in the material world. That's just normal out there. It's not normal in here. It's out of place here. If you want sex, drugs, rock and roll, don't look for it in the Hare Krishna movement. Well, a little rock and roll maybe, but sex and drugs, no. Okay. I always say, whenever anyone asks this question about humility, just act humbly, even when you don't feel like it. You know, that. So Aldo, think of some devotee that you like, you really don't respect that much, and show respect. That's being humble. Tell a friend some mistake you made, some embarrassing mistake. That's being humble. Being willing to admit a fault. That's humble. I'll admit it. Apologize to someone if you make a mistake, if you realize, or you mistreated them or something, say, I'm sorry. That's being humble. Even listening to someone without interrupting them and giving your opinion about what they should do, that's being humble also. Resisting that attempt, just to be able to listen. Someone wants you to listen, just be able to listen. That's being humble. You find it hard to listen sometimes? Just want to tell them? Ah, Prabhu, wait. Just listen to me. I have the answer. Yeah, maybe you do. And maybe it'll help them, but maybe you do and it won't help them. And maybe you don't even have the answer. Just listen. They want someone to listen. That's being humble. Mahaprabhu listened day after day after day to Sarvabhauma. And then Sarvabhauma said, you've been listening for a week. What did you learn? Mahaprabhu said, nothing. But still he listened respectfully, took the humble position. And the Mahaprabhu said, well, I already understand Vedanta Sutra. This is like, well, why did you wanted to teach it to me. I already understood it. But one thing I didn't understand is your explanation. So he's being humble, but he's putting Sarvabhauma in his place. And Sarvabhauma is like the biggest scholar around. It's like, who is this kid, He goes, okay, well, what do you understand? And then Mahaprabhu explained what he understood, and Sarvabhauma's, to use the colloquial, mind was blown. And he knew that he was not talking to an ordinary person. And he became quite humble. So that's also humility. When somebody proves that you're wrong, you acknowledge it. You ever been proven wrong and you fought it to the death? You wouldn't admit it? Yeah, but you don't understand. No, I do understand. You're wrong. Yeah, you're always calling me wrong. That's not fair. Yeah, but fair or not, you're wrong. And you fight it, and you fight it. It's not humility. You tell somebody, you did that wrong. And what do they say? Well, you do it sometimes also. It's like, we're always defending our false ego. That's not a devotee. Devotees don't need to defend it. Say, thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. That's a devotee. So practice that. And if you want to get a lot of practice doing that, just get married and you'll have, every day you can practice it. Not that you will have to. And you'll get really good at it if you practice it. And when you go out in the world, people can say whatever, and you've had so much practice, it'll be easy to deal with it. Sometimes people say something and they'll say, well, excuse me for saying that. And I go, well, no, worry. These are like brahmacharis. I go, don't worry, I'm married. I hear a lot worse. What you said was nothing. So it's funny, but it's true, because once you learn to accept it, then you get practice. And then you get good at accepting it. If you always want to defend yourself, then that becomes your subconscious response when people criticize you. Right? Correcto? Verdad? Okay, so I think that's it. I think the party's over. Yeah, party's over. So we're going to do japa in 2 minutes. I am going to run up to my house, get my japa beads. So I should be back in time to start. We will see you. We'll see you soon. Hare Krishna.